Reading a ruler. A tape measure, or ruler, is divided into feet and inches, usually made from cloth, plastic, or fiberglass. Each foot is divided into 12 inches and each inch is labeled on the ruler. Tape measures are available in various lengths, usually from 6 feet to 300 feet. We have different types of rulers. The first one on the left, that's usually a cloth measure. Usually it's used in clothing stores, measuring for suits. The second one is called an open reel measure, and that's usually used on construction sites. It's got an open reel, so it's usually doesn't get all caught up like the last one on the right. It's more of a metallic. That's one most common. We probably have one of those in our garage or in our kitchen junk drawer. There's also laser measures. There's a kind on construction sites that you could use with a roller, so you just walk with it to measure a distance. As long as the ground is smooth, those types can be used. Then construction sites, usually you'll see that if it's a small, like inside of a house, measuring lengths of pipe to be cut or wood to be cut, measurements for cement, for footings. Usually you'll see the one on the far right. That's a typical one. But sometimes you'll see on large construction sites the open reel one. Okay, rulers. We're going to talk about rulers. And they're usually available in many sizes. 6-inch, 12-inch, or 1 foot. That's usually the typical one, the picture that we have shown below. 18 inches, and 3 feet. 3 feet because 3 feet is a yard. So maybe we've seen a yardstick in school. Usually made of plastic or metal or wood. Oops, pardon me. Each inch is equally partitioned. So here we have, this would be 3 inches on a ruler. Sometimes they're portioned into fourths, or eighths, or sixteenths. This ruler below is partitioned into fourths. After the 0, each line is called a tick mark, and that is 1/4 of an inch. So from where it starts, the first tick mark is 1/4 of an inch. Now this is not to scale. It's probably about at least twice the size. It also depends on the size of your screen. If you have a very large computer monitor, then it says 3 inches, it's going to look a lot larger. If you're using let's say a tablet or an iPad, then the 3 inches might be actually closer to scale. Okay, so that first tick mark is 1/4 of an inch. The little 2 lines right above, that's the symbol for inches. So also called a prime. Sometimes we call it a double prime. Or the quote marks. We use the quote marks to show that. Those 2 little marks. That's 1/4 of an inch. If you only use one of those marks, a single prime, that's the symbol for inches. Oh, I'm sorry, it's fine. So we have 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inches. So if we're talking about feet, we would only have one little symbol there, 1 prime for 1 foot. Okay, the next mark would be 2/4, but 2/4 reduces to 1/2. So the middle mark between each inch is 1/2 inch. So the largest tick mark is the 1/2 inch mark. And then just a little bit smaller is the 1/4 inch tick mark. So 3/4 of an inch is the same size tick mark. So it's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then 1 inch. And then it would be 1 1/4, a mixed number. 1 1/4. 1 1/2. Again, that middle tick mark is 1/2 of an inch. 1 3/4. And then 2 inches. And then 2 1/4. 2 2/4, which is 2 1/2. 2 3/4. And then 3 inches. And so on. The next tick mark would be 3 1/4. Okay. Let's label the measurements of each arrow. So let's look at that first arrow. Let's see, the first tick mark is 1/4, then a half, and then 3/4. So that's 3/4 of an inch. Okay, the next tick mark. Remember, the middle one is the 1/2 inch. So that would be 1 1/2 inch. Okay, next tick mark. Remember, after the 2 inch mark, the first tick mark is 1/4, and then 2/4, and then 3/4. And then after 3/4 is 4/4, but that's a whole. That's why we go up to the next inch. So what will the next tick mark be? 2 3/4. And then the next tick mark is right after the 4-inch mark, and it's the first tick mark. That would be, that's right, 4 1/4. And the next one is right in the middle, 5 1/2. Okay, let's go on. The tick marks on this ruler are every 1/8 of an inch. Notice that if you start counting, there's 1/8, then 2/8, 3/8, and then if you keep going, you get to 7/8, and then 8/8 would be the next, would be the 1 inch, because 8 over 8 is 1. And remember that 2/8, that reduces to 1/4. So notice that these marks at 1/8, they're a little bit smaller than the 1/4 inch mark. So the smallest tip marks on this are 8s. The largest, again, is 1/2. And look at the second arrow. Right in the middle between the 1 inch and 2 inch, that's the largest tick mark. That's not the inch, and that's the 1/2 inch, 1 1/2. But the second smallest tick mark is the 1/4, and the very smallest is the 1/8. So the second tick mark there that has an arrow is 1 1/2. The third one between the 2-inch mark and 3-inch mark. And you could just count. Start counting after the 2. So 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. So that is 2 and 5/8. You start counting after the inch mark. And then the one just before the 5-inch, if you count that one starting after the 4, after the 4-inch, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, and 6/8. 6/8 then reduces to 3/4. And it makes sense that it's a fourth because it's the next, it's not the smallest tick mark, it's the second smallest. The smallest tick marks end up being the 8s. So the last one before the 6-inch would be 5 7/8. Again, if you get confused between the size of the tick marks, just start counting. After the 5 is 1/8, and then 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and then 7/8. And it doesn't reduce, so that's the last tick mark. Okay, let's do an example. Let's label each of these following measurements at each arrow. So let's do the first one. It's the largest tick mark that's not at the inch. So do you remember what that one was? If not, just start counting. Don't count the first tick. Don't count the 0 inch, the largest line. So start at the first little tick mark, that's 1, and this is an 8, so 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. The first arrow is at 4/8, but then 4/8 reduces to 1/2. The second arrow, again, start counting. This is at the smallest of the tick marks, so it's going to be an 8. Let's start counting. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. This one would be 5/8. And don't forget the 1 in front of it because it's after the 1 inch mark. The next one will be 2 and a fraction. Okay. It's not the smallest tick mark this time, it's the second smallest. So that one should be 4ths, but we'll just start counting anyways. 1/8, and then 2/8. And 2/8 reduces to 1/4. Third tick mark will be a 3 for the whole number, and then we'll start counting. This one has a small tick mark, so it's going to be an 8. So start counting. 1/8, 2/8, and then 3/8. Two more to go. Between the 4 and the 5, 4 inch and 5 inch. It's not the smallest, so it's not going to be in 8s. So it's going to be in 4ths. So if you just want to count the 4ths, look at the larger one. The first tick mark is, not the first tick mark, but the first medium-sized tick mark is 1/4, and then the bigger one in the middle is 2/4. This one should be 3/4. But if you just count all of them, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and then 6/8 reduces to 3/4. Last one, it's right in the middle between 5 and the 6, and it's the biggest tick mark. Remember what that one is? That's the 1/2. This is 5 and 1/2. Or if you just count 1/8 is the first tick mark, 2/8, 3/8. This one is 4/8, and 4/8 reduces to 1/2. Okay, so this ruler was divided into 8s. Let's look at one where it's divided into 16ths. And this is more typical of one that you could buy at the store. Or if you buy a ruler for construction or a tape measure for construction, it's usually going to be to the 16th of an inch. Okay, so the first tick mark is 1/16. The second tick mark is 2/16, which is 1/8. So now the smallest tick marks are the 16th of an inch. The next smallest are 1/8 of an inch. And after that, it's 1/4 of an inch. And then the biggest tick mark is 1/2 of an inch. But again, you could always start counting the tick marks and then reduce. So you'll start counting right after the inch mark. So like the second arrow, if you start counting, 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, looks like 4/16. And then 4/16, if you divide them both by 4, you get 1/4. Third one is 2 and 1/2. Next one after 3, let's see, it's 3 and 3/8. So if we start counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a 6 tick mark, so 6/16, that reduces to 3/8. Last one is 4 and 9/16. Sorry. The next one is 4 and 9/16. And the last one is 5 and 7/16. You might want to pause, make sure you're counting on your computer. It's a little hard to tell, but you can do it. Okay, let's do one more example. Label the measurements at each arrow. So the first arrow. So start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a fourth tick mark, and this is in 16, so that would be 4/16. But then you can reduce 4/16 to 1/4. So those biggest tick marks, not the 1/2, the next biggest are the 1/4 inch marks. Okay, the next one between 1 inch and 2 inch, that's the biggest tick mark. That's not an inch. Which one is that? That's a 1/2. And it's between 1 and 2, so it would be 1 and 1/2 inches. If you counted, you would get 8/16, and then 8/16 reduces to 1/2. The next one is between the 2 and the 3, and it's at the smallest tick mark. So if you want to count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would be 2 and 7/16. Third one, let's see, it's not the 1/2 inch, and it's not the 1/4 inch, because later on after that one it's a 1/4 inch. So this one must be an 8. Let's count it from the very beginning. 1/8, 2, I'm sorry, 1/16. Let's count which tick mark it is. So start counting 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the 10th tick mark. So 10/16, that reduces to 5/8. Next one, let's see. That one's got to be a 16th because it's the smallest tick mark. Also notice that the 16ths are always odd numbers. Like the 7/16, if we look previously at that one, that's 7/16. The small tick mark before that one would be 5/16. The small tick mark before that would be 3/16. And the first tick mark would be 1/16. So if we look at this one, at the 5-inch mark, the one before it, that small tick mark before the 5-inch, it's going to be an odd number that's in the 16th. It's less than 16. So that would be 15/16. So this one would be 13/16. And if we just want to verify, let's just start counting after the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's the 13th tick mark. And I kind of put my finger real close to the screen and just started counting until I got there. You're probably doing the same thing. So 4 and 13/16. Okay, the last one. It's not a 16th because it's not a small tick mark. So let's start counting. So it must be the 8s. Okay, so let's start counting. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6/16. What is 6/16 reduced to? That's right, 3/8. So that's 5 and 3/8. Okay, that's just a little bit on reading a ruler. I'll see you here for the next video. Have a good day.